Hello, everyone. Good evening. We're a bit late this week. I just got back to from Liverpool. I'll tell you more about it later after the show. But yeah, hope you all had an awesome week, an awesome Sunday, and a relaxing Sunday as well. It's 3 minutes till 8 p.m. in the UK, which means early Monday morning in Manila. I hope some of you, my dear friends, are still up and watching us live. If not, you can just catch up later on YouTube. Today's guest, I've got to say, when you talk about famous drummers and like Phil Collins, John Coughlin, I mean, these are drummers that were uh, students or our guests actually taught them how to play drums. And the only reason I found out, because you don't really know about who taught these drummers, these famous drummers, how to play. But I only found out about him because I found a 12-inch vinyl at work, which is by our guest today. And it says something like, it's drumming your mother would love. So it got me really interested and I bought it. So anyways, so I searched for him on Facebook, and luckily for me, he's actually on Facebook. He's on social media. And then I sent him a message and asked him if he would like to go on Ask the Drummer. And again, I'm so lucky that he said yes. And he's here this evening. So, my dear friends, please welcome Mr. Lloyd Ryan. Hello.
That sounds like a big audience. Just one,
No, so like,
one of those things on the beach. You go.
I mean, I can never really tell who's watching us live because it's on the Astronomer Facebook page. Sometimes I've got friends like in Manila or in America who do watch, and also in the UK as well, who do watch Ask the Drummer. So, but they can always catch up on YouTube later when I upload the full episode. But anyways, how are you?
I'm okay, thanks. I just hope that the Inland Revenue are not looking, or the or somebody I might owe money to. So, that's where he is. That's where he is. I know where he is. He owes me from 50 years ago a gig.
Okay. Well, I really, you have to forgive me that I've not heard of Lloyd Ryan until I found this 12-inch vinyl. And I believe this is a rare one because you haven't got a copy yourself, you said.
It's what? Sorry, say again.
You haven't got a copy of this Night Run by Lloyd Ryan.
What it was on an album. It was a couple of tracks off of an album I did 20 years ago. And that one. And somebody called me up from Manchester, funny enough, a record distributor in Manchester, said, I like some of those tracks, I'd like to put them out on 12-inch vinyl. So I said, well, great, and they did that. They made it, as you see, you've got it there. Yeah. And it did quite well, apparently. It got to number 90 in the top 100 tracks of records, vinyl things, to the vinyl chart.
Wow.
Yeah, and also there's a DJ called DJ Shadow who wishlisted it as one of the best things of the year. So, and it was just a throwaway track, really. I did at the end of a recording session where it was a lot of drumming and some electronic stuff as well. And it actually came out very well, I must say. But that's it. That's all I say about it. But it's actually better than I thought. And as I say, it did better than I thought it would do as well, because I thought, well, it's dead. Once you've done something, it's a long time ago, and you'll forget it. Then someone comes up and says, hey, I'd like to bring that out. And you think, well, it's a bonus, really.
Yeah. Well, it's a vinyl revival release. And Colin White is actually a drummer as well. Yeah. He's the owner of Vinyl Revival.
Right. He's the guy who probably contacted me. He obviously knew who I was from years ago, because I've done a lot of stuff in the music business, as you know, and to a lot of people. And he put the name together and thought, well, I like this, said this, see what happens. And it's the way it went. It's one of those things that happens.
Yeah. Who came up with that thing, drumming that your mother would love? That's what got me interested.
Mum said, "Oh, that racket up in the bedroom there, you're making a lot of noise in your house." You know what I mean? But stop doing that. So I thought, well, this one maybe Mum's going to like it. You know what I mean? So I don't
No,
know,
that is really good. That's
I don't
very
know
good.
the mothers that are out there, but anyway, how many of you are out there? But did you like it, Mum? Did you like it, Mums?
Well, I am a mom, and I did like it. It's really good. I really enjoyed that one.
Good track. Well, that was a good track, wasn't it? Actually?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so Aiden O'Rourke said sound and vision fine. Aiden is our tech support, so that means everything is okay. But anyway, so welcome to Ask the Drummer. Episode 145 is all about you, Lloyd Ryan, the amazing Lloyd Ryan. Can you just tell us a bit about? Can you tell us a bit about where you were from to start off with?
Well, I was born. Well, I'm not going to tell you when I was born, but anyway, I was born, and born in North London actually. And to be honest, I didn't really have any interest in music and stuff. Even though my mother could play the piano, I wasn't interested in music at all. I was just sort of interested in causing mayhem and creating, having fights at school and all that bit, like you do when you're young. But when I used just before I left school, there was a TV series called Oh Boy, which discovered people like Cliff Richard and Marty Wilde and various other people. It's a great show, and I used to rush home to watch it on a Saturday night. But I still wasn't interested in being in the music business as such. I left school and I got a menial job, because I fancied being a film director. I thought, well, that's a film director, you know what I mean? So anyway, I got a job in a film studio in South London. And when I was there, one day a guy came up to me and said to me, "Do you know anybody who plays the drums? We're looking for a drummer for our rock and roll band." This was the workers' thing. And I just turned around and I said, "Yeah, I can do that." And he said, "Great." He said, "Well, we're having a rehearsal on Monday." This was Wednesday. He said, "We're having a rehearsal on Monday. And turn up then and we'll see how you do." So I went home on the Wednesday night, I went home to my mum and I said, "Mum, any chance of borrowing some money? I want to buy a drum." She went, "What? Buy a drum?" I said, "Yeah, I want to buy a drum." She said, "What, are you crazy?" I said, "No." I said, I'll maybe get a bit in the bag. She said, "You can't play." I said, I know I can't play it, but I want to try it. So on the Saturday, I went into the music shop and in Clapham Junction in London, and Reading's music shop. And in those days, record shops used to sell snare drums and cymbals and stands, but not full drum kits, you see. Well, when
Okay.
I want to start playing the drums, what do I do, you see? So he said, "Well, this is what you start with." He showed me a snare drum, and he showed me a pair of these, very useful, and a little stand. And he said, "Right, there you go." And I said, "How much is that?" He said, £9. That was brand new, £9, you see. So I borrowed £10 from my mum. Said I had some change. So he wrapped this drum up in a brown paper parcel, and I put it under my arm and got on the train back to Earlsfield, where I lived at that time. And well, I didn't know which end of it to play. I didn't know what to do. I was just like banging down like. My dad said, "That's going to be a bit good for the neighbours." Anyway, so that was a Saturday. Come the Monday, I went over to the band rehearsal for the first time in Dogkennel Hill School in Dulwich, East London, and it was in those days the LCC, London County Council, used to hire out rooms in the evening for people to after school stuff. It was the school.
Yeah, yeah.
So I turned up and I had a brown paper parcel under my arm here, a pair of sticks and a little stand to put it on, you see. So when I got in the room, there was a band set up and no drums, of course. I walked in and they said to me, "Where's the rest of the kit?" I said, "I couldn't get it on the bus." I mean, I didn't have a car, obviously I couldn't drive. I just left school, So anyway, they said, "Right, well, set it up then." So I managed to set it up the right way. Got it covered the right way. And he said, "What we're going to do, we're going to record you on one of those old Grundig tape recorders, reel-to-reel tape recorders, you see, with a microphone, one microphone.
Yeah.
Just to see what you sound like. And I thought to myself, well, I can tell you what I'm going to sound like. Rubbish, I haven't got a clue. But anyway, we're going to start with, I'm going to play a number called Guitar Boogie Shuffle by Bert Wheaton. Funny enough, many years later, I actually ended up playing for Bert Wheaton, but that's 20 years down the line. But anyway, on and off that was. And anyway, so this track started. It went dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, and I'm sort of going. Finish. We stopped, and there was silence. And they said, "Stop the tape recorder." And they said, "You can't play, can you?" I said, "No, I only got it Saturday." And this, so the other one day, they said, "Well, we'll tell you what, Lloyd. We only know one number, Guitar Boogie Shuffle. So you might as well join the band." So I thought, oh, that's good, isn't it? So anyway, I went over and Mum said, "How'd you do?" I said, "Well, I got the job." I said, "What? It must be easy." I said, "No, it ain't easy. Definitely not easy. But they can't play either." So that was my start. And my dad said, "There's got to be a way of playing these things, because all we're hearing is sort of, I mean, not as good as that, but try and get some lessons." And I rang up a drum teacher.
Yeah.
He was advertising in the New Musical Express, there was a lot of newspapers in, like Melody Maker, New Musical Express, Record Mirror, all these things. And I rang him up, and he said, "Well, come along." And I had my first lesson. And it's interesting because, and what is the thing I would like to mention before we go too much further, is that I had no direction in my life at all. Nothing. There wasn't any direction at all. I was useless at school. I nearly got expelled from school when I was about 13 for being dishonest with a couple of guys who we stole something, but we got away with it. But I got a caution from the police,
Yeah.
And what I will say about playing the drums, it gave me a direction, concentration, focus, being part of a team, all the things that make you a better person came out of doing this, coordination, all the things I've said here. And when I sat behind that kit, in the drum studio, where the teacher was teaching, and I thought, I feel comfortable here. I only had one snare drum. He had 5 drums: bass drum, 3 tom-toms, snare drum, cymbals. I didn't have anything like that at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rick saying to me, "Do you want to learn it properly, or would you just want to learn for a party, just to play a couple of little bits and pieces?" I said, "No, I've never done anything in my life before that's been very good, ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to do it properly." And he said to me, "You're going to have to learn to read music then if you want to do it properly, because that opens up all the doors. Once you learn to read music, that means you've got hundreds of books, hundreds of books now. There wasn't so many in those days, but there's still a few books. Once you understand them, it's another language." So I said, "No, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it properly." So he said, "Right." So I went out and bought a tutor book of the Buddy Rich snare drum rudiments, and I practiced probably every day for probably 2 hours, 3 hours. I used to go to Dalkeller Hill School 5 nights a week. When I finished work at the film studio, I used to go across London to Dulwich. The band still carried on, and I got better. You can imagine I'm a little while, but they learned more Guitar Boogie Shuffle, and it was every night I'd go from work, and I'd get in of a night at 10 o'clock at night. Only on the buses, I had to get the buses back to South London. And I'd have my dinner at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I'd be up again next morning to go to work. And I did that, and I did that, and I did that, and I just kept going and kept going. And I can remember one distinct thing. About 6 months after I've been playing, I turned up for a lesson with my teacher, and there was another drummer in there having a chat with him. And they were chatting, and I just sat there, waiting. And this teacher said, "Can I introduce you to Ronnie?" I said, "I know one." He said, "This is Lloyd Ryan." He said, "Brand new drummer." He said, "I think he's going to be very good." He said, "Play something for for Ronnie really. So I did a sort of
Wow.
I'd been playing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can remember it. And Ronnie turned around me and said, "What's your name again?" I said, "Lloyd Ryan." He said, "I think we're going to hear about you." Well, it's not the only time we're going to hear about you. And the Ronnie was Ronnie Stevenson, who was a great drummer in the 60s and 70s. He played for Jack Parnell's orchestra. He played for so many records. He was a really fine drummer, Ronnie Stevenson. He's
Yeah.
dead, not dead now, but and I felt as I was somebody sitting there doing that. I thought, hey, someone's watching me. You know what I mean? And of course, what I never realised was that I ended up playing for so many people that I'd seen on television when I was at school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many famous people,
Yeah.
well, later on, I mean, the list of people I worked for, played the drums for, they were number one in the charts at the time. It just goes on and on endlessly. There was well, Cilla Black, for example, from up here. There was Brotherhood of Man, who did the Eurovision, one of the few bands that actually won the Eurovision. Tony Christie, of course, Amarillo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I played for over 100 major acts, and really, it was just a magic time for me. Just as though everything fitted into place. It was as though I was meant to do it, But I never thought about teaching. That was never something I ever thought about doing. I couldn't play myself, So I mean, how can I teach anyone? So that came on later. I was asked to teach by my old drum teacher. And,
All right.
yeah, he opened up a shop in Acton.
Yeah.
In Acton, in North, is it North? That's not North London. Do you know where Acton is? You probably don't.
No. I've heard of Acton, but I don't think I've been to Acton. Yeah. But, yeah.
And I ended up teaching in his shop. And some of the people that I taught there, and I'd only been playing probably 4 years myself. I weren't much in myself, really. Graham Broad was from.
Yeah.
If you know Graham Broad, great drummer.
Yes.
Played with Roger Waters and EastEnders, that thing of the EastEnders.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Graham, and he played for Bucks Fizz. Often when I was a Brother of the Man, Bucks Fizz used to support us on the shows. But then of course Phil Collins came in, and and it just went on, and that's how I first met. Even Keith Moon from the
Who?
Yeah, he came in. Him and John Edwards used to come in the shop because they lived. A lot of these people lived in Acton around that area in Ealing. And Keith Moon used to come in, and when I wasn't teaching, I'd be sitting in my studio. He'd come in and we'd have a chat. And I remember showing him how to go around the kit with triplets. Something like that. I can't remember what did that. And we practiced. He wasn't a pupil. He wasn't officially a pupil. He was just somebody who came in, which got to know me.
Yeah, yeah. Was he just watching you? Was he watching you play or teaching the other people?
No, he didn't even know I was when he came. He just knew I was the drum teacher. And I didn't know who he was either. I didn't realise he was anything where he was.
Yeah.
The Who were just a local pub band, a club band. They weren't mega famous at that point. They were coming up the ladder, but it wasn't where he was. And I remember listening to one track, and he's going this track, and I thought, oh yeah, I know where you got that from. For me, it was almost as though everything fitted into place, really. And I mean, there's been a lot of good drum teachers around, I'm sure of that. But I did have a record of people being successful with me. I mean, I'm looking at a list here of the people that I can remember, the ones that became well known. I'm looking here thinking of, apart from Phil Collins, I got JC, John Cotton was from me.
Yeah.
Nick Sims, who was in a band called Corner Shop. They had a record called Basher.
Brimful of Basher, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Keith Hartley, who was from up here, came to London and went with John Mayall's band. Ralph Salmon's another one that's played for Madonna, Robbie Williams, and everybody else. Really great drummer, Ralph. Good. Darby Tom, another great drummer that when he was a little kid, came for lessons off of me. Graham Border said, I'm looking at a band called Big Sound Authority. Steve
Oh
Ross,
yeah, yeah,
Phil Wilson, another guy that's played for a lot of 70s bands, and Tim Goodyear, who's the drummer, West End drummer, leading West End drummer, Tim. He's doing a musical called Hamilton at the moment, which I think is the number one West End musical in London. And
yeah,
when a musical comes to London, the London theatres, it's the same as Broadway. It's got as much status as Broadway.
yeah, yeah.
Well, so and I've got loads more as well. There's loads more. If there's anybody out there that did have lessons with me, I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned you, but there's hundreds. And
Yeah.
that was luck, because I never dreamt that Phil Collins would ever be where he was, or what a brilliant songwriter he is, and what a talented drummer he was.
Oh, yeah. I love Phil Collins, but you have released a drum tuition LP, called "Prelude to the Pulse of Time," and when I posted it on Facebook this week, some of the drummers who have been on the show, they actually told me that they own a copy of that LP. Like Ray Fiend, who's an Irish drummer, he sent me a photograph of his copy of the LP, and Ross Sinclair.
What was the LP?
It's the Prelude to the Pulse of Time.
Oh, the Pulse of Time, yes.
Yeah, I think that's your first album.
So a lot of drummers have got that, and that started people. Well, I'm really happy with that. Great.
Yeah, yeah.
Who was the drummer who said he got that?
Ross Sinclair, who's the drummer of the Soup Dragons, he's got a copy, and he's still got the book, because it comes with the book, or it comes with the book.
Say thanks for buying it. It's probably the only one.
Ray Fiend as well. He's an Irish drummer, and he also sent me a photograph of his copy of the this LP.
I did go to one. I used to do a lot of. I started off when I started getting known. I started doing a lot of drum clinics, and I did for Premier. And when I started, and I got that first snare drum, which is an Olympic snare drum, which was made by Premier, the cheap version of Premier. I never realised all those years later that I would be an endorsee of Pearl, Yamaha, Premier, Sakai, and the Premier gave me 5 kits for nothing, and I couldn't afford even to buy a Premier drum kit.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm going to tell you a funny story, actually, a quick story. I did tour in Ireland many years ago, about 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago, and doing drum clinics. And there's a lot of stories before. But let's tell you, I did one drum clinic in Dublin, and some guys come in from a rock band came in to see me, and the drummer came in and said, "I really enjoyed what you were doing, fantastic, a great player and all that bit." So when they left, the guy said, "Do you know who they were?" I said, "No." He said, "They were you too." I said, "Oh
no!" Oh my God! So it was Larry Mullen. Larry Mullen Jr. was attending your drum clinic.
So unless he was pulling, my leg or whatever it was, but it's what he said, and I thought, wow.
Wow.
But so much of that really was luck. I mean, and when I started getting known, the drum companies wanted me to do drum clinics because people used to come and see me do these drum. The drum clinic is really a one-man show when you're on your own.
Yeah.
200 drummers, And so one of the scary things, I remember going to the London drum show. Used to have they've had it up here recently, haven't they? The drum show in Liverpool was on last week apparently. But they used to do them in London, and I used to be a guest on there. And one guy came up to me and said to me, he's a bald guy, really old, he looked really old, and he had a beard and all that bit, it's bald and all that. And he said, "Oh Lloyd," he said, "I'm really pleased to meet you," he said, "I've always loved your drumming, ever since you come and played at my school."
Oh, wow.
That made me feel about 90. I thought, I said, "Thank you very much, very kind of you." Oh, you look with my dad, you look like that.
But all this time that you're teaching drums, were you in a band, or were you like a session drummer playing for different artists?
I worked with, I was playing in rock and roll bands, and then I got a bit bigger up the ladder. I toured with Gene Vincent in France, Remember Gene Vincent? Baby, Bopaloo.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah.
And I worked with the backing band for the Walker Brothers, the Quotations. And then I joined what in those days was my first really big job was the Ken McIntosh Orchestra. Now that was a big band that did radio shows, they did Come Dancing. You know the Strictly Come Dancing things now?
Mm,
Before that, the BBC used to do Come Dancing. That was the forerunner of Strictly many years ago, and I did about 10 of those playing for that.
all right.
That was at the Empire Ballroom in Leicester Square. The Empire Leicester Square, the Mecca Ballroom. And that
Yeah.
was the youngest big band drummer at that time. And then I went on to work with, I left that band with Reg Brooks band, and then I went on to Edmundo Ross and Bob Miller and the Minutemen. And it just went on and on and on. Then I ended up playing for Hurricane Smith, who had Peterson Lee. Oh my goodness, it just went on. But I was playing all the time. I've forgotten the amount of gigs and things that I've done. I was working all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
the back in cabarets, the Platters, American Action. Oh dear, just a lot of the people you wouldn't know, but maybe the people out there
Yeah.
will know some of the drummers that are older ones. You know,
Yeah.
so many big names I played for, but I got more well known really in the business for teaching and doing drum clinics. And my tutor book, I brought a tutor book out, the complete drum tutor, which was
Yeah. Yeah.
and that did quite well. It's still around now actually. It's in the museum now.
It's all the museum. But you're also in a band with John Coughlin. Is it John Coughlin's Diesel?
Yeah. But there's a big,
It's his band when he left after he left Steve's Co, and then he formed a band.
I also see. I knew the boys. I did Butlin's holiday camp when I first started. I was playing in the big band there, and John Coughlin was playing in the rock and roll ballroom with a band called the Spectres, and that was the name of Status Quo before they become Status Quo. And I was with John then and the boys, you know, as they were. Rick Parfitt wasn't even in the band at that point. He was playing in an act in the show in Butlin's. And we used to go out onto the moors, on Bodmin Moors and all that, from Minehead, looking for flying saucers, because it was the time of the UFO flaps and all that. We saw very strange things in the sky, I can tell you now. But not to mention in the bushes. But anyway, okay. but yeah, I've known John, a dear friend of mine, for so long.
So were you both playing drums in that band, or?
What we did, I didn't play with Diesel, that was his band, but we did do a drum thing together with Diesel, and it was at the Marquee, and I can remember we did this drum battle, and the melody maker wrote up on it and said, "Oh, the oddities of the day, of the evening, with a drum battle with John Coughlin and somebody called possibly Lloyd Wright." They got my name wrong as well. Well, a long time ago, too, when 34 years ago. And I remember we did this drum battle together. You know, later on, I ended up doing a drum clinic tour with John Coughlin. You know, and we were all around the country. He was the star of the show because of Status Quo, and I did the warm up, the beginning of it. Did my bit, and John come on, and we conducted an interview, very much like you're doing now. But I did it with John. I was interviewing John about his career. And we had a great time.
Yeah.
Then I did it later on with Pick Withers. You know Pick Withers from Dire Straits?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'll tell you a very funny story about Pick Withers and Dire Straits. I think the drummers are like this. Pick had a dog, a lovely, beautiful dog, female dog. Beautiful she was. He took her everywhere with him on the tour, right?
Yeah.
And I travelled a mile. We get to the venue, and the dog was sitting in the dressing room. So we were in somewhere, Rock City, or something it's called, and the guy had a spotlight at the back there, and there was about 250 people in the audience. So I come out and did my first half. We had an interval, and then I went on and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest tonight, I'd like to introduce you to Pick Withers." And the spotlight came down, and the dog came out and sat in the spotlight. And so someone shouted out, "Blimey, he's changed, isn't he?" Oh dear, oh dear. So that, that's a funny story. I saw a picture last year, actually. It was last year or the year before, because he lives up here somewhere. He lives near Wallasey, I think he lives. And I mentioned the dog died a long time ago, but it's quite funny. The dog come out and sat in the spot because it was warm. It was warm. Nice. The dog sitting there.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, well, can you tell us about because you also support Buddy Rich.
Yeah,
Would you say
yeah.
that Buddy Rich is like the greatest drummer ever?
When I started, I modelled myself a bit on Buddy Rich, which was not a good idea really, because there's not many calls for another Buddy Rich, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I got quite close in some ways, but too close in many places. But yes, I was asked to do a drum clinic on the same day that Buddy Rich was appearing on the Lewisham Jazz Festival
Yeah.
in in 80, 86, 87, somewhere around about that time.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had a good audience. It was at the same place. It was about 250 people. Of course, it was 900 coming to see Buddy Rich afterwards. But I didn't do too bad, and it was a great thrill for me. And on one of my Facebook things, at the front, someone was taking a photograph. I think it was Andy Goodchild. He took a photograph at the front cover and it says Buddy Rich Orchestra, whatever, and then next to it, Lloyd Ryan, drum clinic, so and so, so and so. And I'm really glad he took that photo because I've not got, of all the people I've worked for and played for, I've never had any autographs. I've never ever got an autograph.
No.
It's a shame because so many of the legends that I played for that are no longer with us. You know, like recently, my brother who the man died, Martin Lee, who I really liked Martin, a lovely guy. He died about 2 weeks ago. And so many Cannon and Ball and acts I played for, double acts I played for, well known in this country. You wouldn't know them, but they were very well known. Tommy and Bobby Ball died during the pandemic. Actually, there's so many people that I work with are no longer here. I wish I'd have had photographs. No photographs or anything. I wasn't into all that, you know, because
Oh
I just didn't
no.
do it.
Was there a photo of you and Phil Collins?
No, I got nothing. No interview. No photos with me and Phil. Nothing. It was just to me.
Oh,
It was just one of those things where I was working, and it was just another day, I suppose.
yeah.
Job and you do, you play and you come back. I used to travel up to Liverpool. I did a lot of drum clinics in Liverpool. I had a big following up here at one time, and hundreds of people. And I'd drive up and do the show, and then drive back to London, or go into Manchester for the next day.
Yeah.
It's just that's what it's like. You know, when you
It's work for you. It's work. Yeah.
oh yeah, because I had a young son. I mean, I wasn't married, but I had a young son.
Yeah.
He had to be brought up, and I had two houses. I had a house that I gave to my mum and dad, and I had to be working to maintain all that thing, you see, and bring him, make sure that he was okay and all that bit. So at the end of the day, there wasn't time to think, oh, I wonder if I'm famous. I wonder what that doesn't occur to you. I was in magazine. I had a centre spread in the Melody Maker. Full centre spread in Melody Maker. That had a circulation of 300,000 copies a week. That one time didn't mean anything to me. And I mean, really, the example of that, really, Anne, was when I was getting well known. When I first started getting well known, people would come up to me and talk to me. I didn't know who they were, so I'm trying to think. Have you ever had that where someone will talk to you and you're trying to remember where you know them from?
Yeah.
Where do you know this person from? And then one guy was standing next to me and said, oh, and he said, oh, I've got your pulse of time or whatever it was, playing along the percussion perhaps. So then I knew that he knew who I was. So after that, every time anybody came up to me and talked to me, I said, hey, mate, how you going? I imagined I knew them all. They were all friends because they knew who I was from what I was doing, you see. But I remember once walking down Shaftesbury Avenue in London. You've been to Shaftesbury Avenue in London, I know you have.
Yeah, I think so.
A big wide pavement down Shaftesbury Avenue. And then one summer's day, I'm walking down there, and I was quite well known then. I was in magazines and did children's TV and all that bit, as a guest on children's TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm walking up. There was a group of people, about 4 people coming along, and they suddenly came towards me. So a bloke come up to me, and I thought he was going to ask me to time. He said, excuse me. I said, yes. He said, are you Lloyd Ryan? I said, yes, I am actually. He said, oh, I told you so, and he walked off.
But people ask you for
I,
photographs and autographs.
and I thought, so that's what being well known's about.
Yeah,
Buddy Rich used to say, a write-up in a magazine and $1 will buy you a cup of coffee. And it's true, if you think about it. It's true, isn't it? I mean, fame is, you can't eat fame, you can't, or whatever you want to call it. In my field, I was quite famous in that field.
that's
But
true.
I say, who would have heard of it? But people do in that world. And I think you're just more concerned about trying to do a good job. And
Yeah.
when I would do jump clinics, I'd be hoping that people would turn up to see me, really. And I
When,
think
when,
that
can I
way.
ask you about the drum clinic? Is it only drummers? Like,
Well, no,
already?
well, funny you should say that, but I decided I'd watched a few jump clinics and I was quite bored. Someone talking about a single stroke roll and a double stroke roll for about an hour and a paradiddle and all that stuff. I was a bit bored with that. So I decided to make it a humorous. And I had questions and answers. I had questionnaire things, and people used to write a questionnaire, and then they'd be collected. They'd leave them on the seats, and then somebody was looking after me would come down and collect them and bring them into a dressing room, and I'd read them out.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it was silly things like, if you're not the greatest drummer in the world, I'm a Dutchman. Signed Hans van Gelder. But they made people laugh. Made people laugh. And I think it was, for me, about entertainment as well. Drumming really is great for the train spotters and fishermen and all that bit, sitting there like they went to catch something and brag about
Oh,
the biggest fish. But I think that it's not only, for me, it wasn't only about drummers. I used to get people come along and say to me afterwards, well, I brought my son with me. I thought I was going to be bored stiff. He said, but I wasn't. I loved it. I loved your playing. I loved the way you were talking to people and all that bit.
yeah.
And I even had a little girl. I was on the stage in the theatre in Sunbury, the Key Theatre, and a little girl about 4 or 5 years of age walked up to the stage, walked up the steps and sat next to me on the stage. And she looked at me like that. Hello, she said, hello. I said, who are you? She said, whoever she was, I can't remember, we'll call her Julie. I said, oh. I said, do you play the drums? She said, no. I don't like them really, she said. I said, well, what are you here? She said, my brother. He makes he's in there, he lives in my house, my brother, she said to me. And the audience were hysterics, And I said, oh, you want to stay up? She said, yeah. And I went like this on the drum. I went, and she went, ah! And she ran off.
But when you're teaching drums, because you mentioned earlier about it gave you focus, and you actually sort of like um, made purpose as well in your life and everything. Is that something that you always sort of like make sure that when you teach someone how to play drums, that it's something to do with you've got to make sure that you're focusing on things
Yeah,
and be serious about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That doesn't sound like a drum.
My mobile phone. I shall leave it on leave that. Anyway, that's so annoying when you see people on TV doing that. The phone went, I'm amazed at how many people I have helped in other ways other than drumming, and often unintentional. To be honest with you, I've not noticed I'm doing that, but it works. There's many people I've taught that say to me that it's given me focus in life, it's given me a purpose, and I was worried about doing something, and now thanks to the drums and you, I'm not. So I think that that for me was an unknown thing I didn't realise I was doing. It's only
Yeah,
in the last 2 or 3 years I've realised that um, has been very important. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
In
It
Tim
it
Goodyear,
helps because
I'm just going to say about Tom Goodyear and you. He's on a a drum site, and they're talking about London drummers, West End drummers, and he mentions me, and he said that without Lloyd, I wouldn't be in the West End, in London's West End now, because when I first went to lessons of him, I was actually scared of him. Scared. He said, I'd go there frightened. He could tell if I had practiced or I hadn't practiced. He said, but by golly, it's the best thing I ever did. He said, I would not be where I am in London now, because he's one of the top, probably one of the West End drummers, in the West End theatres, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, like Book of Mormon and all those things. So at the end of the day, but you don't realise it's at the beginning of it, really. You don't know that. You know, it's just one of those things that I just wanted to teach them the drums and to play. See, you have to focus very much so when you're playing something repetitive, like say power diddle. If you're going power diddle, to get to that kind of speed and that sort of thing, it's very much for those drummers that do most drummers that do power diddle, right left right left right left left. So on, but you've got to concentrate, massive concentration. You can't sit there and hello.
Yeah.
What's for dinner tonight? To do that, you know, you can't worry about what you have for dinner. You just got to get on with what you're doing. It takes hours and hours of repetition.
Yeah.
But it paid off for me in funny ways, actually, because you may not. Have you ever seen a film called The Birth of the Beatles?
No.
It's a Hollywood film. It's made in England, but I discovered the drumming on that. And I was originally booked as a teacher, as a coach for the film, for the drummers that had to play Ringo Starr and Pete Best. And there's a scene in the film where Ringo Starr does his first gig at the Cavern, and the audience didn't like him at all. So they wanted Pete Best, you see.
Yeah.
So when I got to the studio, I was working on the film for 2 or 3 weeks during the day, as well as playing every night. The director and the cast were all looking downtrodden, you know, sitting down. And I said, "What's the problem?" They said, "Well, we're finding it difficult to get Ringo introduced to the audience on the first gig." And me wanting to be a film director when I was at school, you know, that clicked into me. And I said, "Is there an audience there?" They said, "Yeah, there are." I said, "Right. Get them to slow hand clap." So they go, Ringo off, Pete Best and all that bit like that. And then Ringo Starr, the actor, picks up the sticks and plays with them, clapping. And
Yeah.
We're done. And the director said to me, "I love it. I'm going to do it. What do we have to do?" So I said, "Well, I'm going into the studio anyway to record some of the drum solos in the film. I'll record that roll, and then I'll get the actors, or the actor that was playing Ringo Starr, to mime to it. And all he had to do was just sort of go,
Just go." Yeah, right.
busting the gut, as it were, and he's going,
Yeah.
and but it's funny enough, it turned out by accident one of the highlights of the film. But that got me many years later a TV commercial for Visa Apple Pay, which I did. It starts off with that role. There's a shot of me on the jumping, and I'm going. Then it cuts to other things, and ends up. Yeah, I got it because of that.
Yeah.
That role as the drummer in that TV commercial. That was 25 years later, 30 years later.
Yeah.
I believe the director had actually seen the film, you know. But incredibly on one thing, something you don't expect, one thing can lead to another, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's the most famous commercial. It's the Cadbury. Is that the Cadbury one with the gorilla? Oh, I can't remember that. It's Cadbury.
Yeah. Well, what was it?
The Phil Collins one.
Well, he's changed. Anyway, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I went on tour with the Drum Clinic tour, I did a drumming your mother would love sort of drum kit to her. Rachel, my then partner, who's no longer my partner, but she was a drummer. We got a gorilla suit and put her in the suit, and she would in the air tonight. And that would come on. She'd be playing along. She'd play along to it, you see. And I'd come out with a big bar of chocolate, and I'd say, and the gorilla would go, "No, it's Cadbury's chocolate." No. And I'd come back again. I couldn't get the gorilla off the stage, you see. So then I brought a banana out, and off the gorilla ran off. And then, anyway, so
Wow.
a lot of people thought it was me in the gorilla suit, you know. However, at the end of the show, the gorilla comes back on again, and I did one of those things that they used to do in the wrestling shows where they have a masked wrestler. They say, "Take the mask off," you know. So I said, "Shall I take the mask off of the gorilla?" And when I took it off, it was Rachel, my partner.
Yeah.
And he went, "Put it back again."
Oh, dear. Well, now that you mentioned wrestling, because that's another part of your. I mean, it's got nothing to do. Oh no, it has something to do with your drumming because you wrote something for the wrestling, for the wrestling part.
Yeah, there was. This is the musical side of my life, but it came into wrestling as well. There was a very famous wrestler called Kendo Nagasaki. He was the biggest name in this country at that time, but he wore a mask and he never spoke in public. He never ever spoke in public. You see, so a man of mystery. And I thought, what a great idea to maybe do a record, a single, for him as an entrance thing for the ring.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we recorded this thing called Kendo's Theme. And it came out on a record, 45. It got played on the radio all over the place. It got played. They used to use it. It was an instrumental. And they used to use it as an entrance theme for him. But also coming up to the news, about when they got a spare minute or 2 minutes, they put it on coming up to the news on the radio. It got hundreds of plays all over the country on local radio. You know, Radio 2 played it, you know, pop show things and that. Just amazing how that took off, you know. And that was the first in this country. This is a fact. That was the first time that any wrestler had a theme originally written for him and recorded. No British wrestler had that at that time.
Yeah. And then you ended up being his manager.
Well, that was just a hobby. That was just a bit of fun. That was really, yes, he's a man. Because I used to speaking on a microphone and not talking publicly, I knew him. I got friendly with him. You know, him and his manager. His manager at the time quit and didn't do it anymore. And I went to see a show one night just as a friend. And I got called in the dressing room and he said to me, "Do you fancy doing the management for me?" And George is not doing it again. He's finished now. And I thought, oh, well, why not? Might be a bit of fun. Go out there and wind up the order. Because we were the baddies. We weren't the goodies. We were the baddies. And I thought, well, what will I have to do? He said, "We just wind, you know, build me up, build the character up from the room, see, like George did." The other.
Yeah.
So I got in there with the Walthamstow Assembly Hall, which was a really rough hall, full of East End thugs and real tough place, you know. And I walked out there, and they warned me, the wrestlers warned me, don't stand too near the edge of the ring, otherwise they might grab your feet and try to pull you out of the ring. So, of course, I go in there and I start winding up the crowd, saying, I've never seen so many ugly people and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And they hated me on sight. They're all booing and stamping. Yeah, when Kendo won the match, which was by a foul, as usual, or something dishonest that I did, or something like that, I got too near the edge of the ring. And someone took me, I had these black moccasin shoes, and they took them off and threw them in the audience. I was standing there with stockings. And it wasn't so bad, but I had holes in my socks. So really, that was my baptism of fire with that. And I did it on and off. We did a TV show called The Masters of the Canvas, which you might be able to see. It's about the wrestling business, but I'm the manager in there. The manager. Yeah. It's a BBC Two documentary, which is on Netflix. You can actually see that. And a book came out, a wrestling book, and I went around with him as the spokesman. I did a lot of that, but I wasn't doing it full time. I was a drummer full time,
Yeah, yeah.
playing at nightclubs and theatres and all that bit, And but it was good fun. It was dangerous, because the audience didn't like us. They wanted my head on the wall. You know what I mean?
Did you teach Kendo how to play drums?
Well, we
There's a
did.
really,
Did you
yeah,
speak?
there's a really good photograph of you on that I found on Google when I googled it. There's the two of you, so like sitting, one drum for Kendo and one drum for you, and it's got your names there.
Eddie Baker show, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Baker show. Yeah. He could play enough. He could sort of play. He's going. But he was the star of the show. I was just the manager, But they put that in at the end. Premier, there was 2 Premier kits on the stage there for that. And Premier rang me up the next day on it was a Saturday night show. Rang me up on the Monday and said, "Thanks very much. What publicity was that? 7 million viewers."
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's true.
Well, you're the right person to ask. And do you think anyone can play drums? Or it's got to be someone who's like it's natural to them, or it's like a gift. You've got to be gifted.
I think it's possible. Well, I was an example of someone who never played in his life before and did pick it up and did okay. So that's one example. I would say you've got to have a sense of rhythm, a natural sense of rhythm. And what I try to do with new pupils, I try to get them to listen to a bit of music and see if they can hear the backbeat. The thing that goes, the backbeat is. That is there now. If they can't hear that when they listen to music, I think, well, you're going to struggle. It's not impossible, but if they don't hear it after a couple of weeks, I say to them, I don't think it's going to work because you don't have a sense of rhythm. So, to me, you've got to have that basic sense of rhythm. But I think if you're prepared to put the work in and you talk properly and you do try and read, which I think is important at the beginning. See, if you ask me what makes a drummer, really, if you were teaching someone, would be reading, technique, and feel. The first 2 you can teach. The third one is very difficult. Feel, because you can play wooden or you can play relaxed. It's very difficult to explain that. You've got to listen to music and listen to the great drummers and try and work, get that feel. That's difficult. I think, to answer your question simply, if you've got a sense of rhythm and you're prepared to work at it, I think you can become a drummer. Whether you'll become a great drummer is another story.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's possible for you to become a great drummer. But
I need to write it down. So it's reading, technique, and feel. That's
those
very
are the big 3. They're the big 3. Because nowadays, especially, there's hundreds of books on the market by some very well-known drummers, very famous drummers. And if you can read, you can play what they're playing. Then you do your own thing. Once you can play that stuff, you develop the technique. Then you can change it to suit yourself. It's much easier. But to remember all that stuff is impossible. When you read it, you just open the book and you read it, and then you try and play it, and that takes a bit of time, and then you're away. But you can't really remember the thousands and thousands of things that I have to learn on the drums. You can't remember. It's almost impossible. You need a great big head like this, the brain that big to absorb all that. Really.
Yeah.
That's
when you're teaching, do you do like a one-on-one teaching? Because I know that you do online teaching now, but do you also do like personal teaching?
In the studio? Oh yeah, I've got pupils who come here every week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, in some ways, I like that because you can have more fun with them. When it's a bit more different, though we're doing well tonight, to have a bit of a laugh together. Something a little bit distant with your
with Zoom, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, you can do it. It works with Zoom 100%.
Yeah.
But it's if you want to come to me for lessons, for example, and you live in London or somewhere like that, you can still do it on Zoom, because you can't travel up here; it's too far to go. So from that point of view, it enabled me to keep a lot of my pupils when I left London and came to Liverpool. Well, no, I'm not. I don't live in Liverpool. I live in the Wirral, which
The
is about
world, yeah, yeah,
50 miles from Liverpool.
yeah, yeah.
But
And then
yes,
you teach all sorts, like from beginners to
oh
people
yeah,
who already know. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Advanced pupils are great for me. But if you're only starting out and you're really keen, great. I'm more than happy with that. It's not a problem. It really it's not down to me really so much as it's down to the pupil. You show somebody, and they're learning to do something from you, and then they go home and hopefully practice. If they don't practice and they come back, that's the only time I get annoyed. If someone's got some potential talent and then they go away and they don't practice and they're not improving, I get angry with that because they're wasting their money and their time and my time. Practice
Yeah, yeah.
and you're fine, and you can do it. And one famous drum teacher in the 60s, a drummer called Max Abrams, he believed that when you're learning to read, the secret of all practice drumming is to play very, very slowly to start with on each thing that you do. And then your brain absorbs that. And also another thing about the brain I found with my pupils as well, that you are using, when you're doing left and right and the 2 feet going, you're using the left side of your brain, which very often you might only use one side of the brain. So when you're playing, you can just play a simple thing like 4 beats to the bar with the bass drum, hi-hat on 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's using the other side of your head. So when you come to put those sort of things, you've got that going, if you want, underneath. So you're using with the left and right, left paradiddle, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, using the left side of the brain. And that
Yeah,
opens up that side of you, you see. So
yeah, yeah.
a lot going for drumming that you don't realise,
Can I also ask, when a pupil comes up to you, do they ask you about Phil
It's what-
Collins? When someone comes up to you, like they want you to learn how to play the drums, do they ask about Phil Collins and John Coghlan, and so like hoping that someday they'll be like that as well?
Well, I suppose people do think that. I mean, yes, as I said earlier on, there's some good teachers around in this country, but I just happened to make it because I was very lucky. I became probably the most well-known at the time for about 10 years because of the people I taught, because they made it mega. You can't argue with that. These guys had million-selling records and they were everywhere. And my name was with them in one form or another. So that's going to rub off onto me. If you see what I'm saying. So yeah, I think people, maybe they think you can do that, but of course you can't really. You can only, Phil Collins, when he was about 15 or 16, whatever it was, when I first met him, was really a talented drummer. He was actually, because I hadn't been playing really that long myself, and he was actually a better drummer, band drummer than I was. He wasn't technically as good as me with all the technique stuff and all that, but he was a better band drummer, better field drummer, which I didn't concentrate on in those days. It never come until much later. I was more interested in trying to sound like Buddy Rich, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that, yes, I think that draws people to know your name. See, when I was at school, I hated my name. Lloyd Ryan to me sounded a real funny name. But that became my strength in the music business because it's very unusual. It's an unusual name, you see. People remember my name. So you can have, I've had people come up to me and say, do you play with drums? Say, yeah, what's your name? Oh, Lloyd Ryan, I've heard of you. Which is this, didn't know what I look like. So I think that all the little things that go to make it up, a lot of luck, ability, being tenacious, constant and wanting to be, I think that's hard work and not giving up as well as another thing. As is, don't give up, and it's true.
Yeah, that is true. But do you still play And apart from the teaching side, do you play as a
But
session drummer in the band?
I do play with a band called the Vintage Band, which is obviously an older rock and roll. They're all older guys, a rock and roll band, and that's really only started. But well, I mean, in London, there's gigs all over the place. You know what I mean? But I decided to move up to a less crowded area with a lot more space up here and a nicer house and all that bit. And I intended to be with Rachel, but that didn't happen after a couple of years. So, but oh well, that's the way it goes. But at the end of the day, um, yes, I still play, but the things that the bands that I'm building up here, I don't want to get not going to get it from up here because it's a nice area, but they weren't really as good, and I didn't really get on with a lot of the people. Didn't really,
Yeah, yeah.
and people were a bit scared as well when they found out who I played for, and the people I've taught, they're thinking, well, you won't want to come and play with my
You know,
band. So you're thinking, yeah, but if everyone said that, I wouldn't be able to get a gig, would I? You know what I mean? If everyone said,
yeah, yeah.
you're the great Lloyd. I said, well, that's nothing to do with that. I'm playing. I don't care where I'm playing, as long as it's good. I'm not bothered about you're famous, you know. Don't bother me. Go and play, you know. And I think that yes, I still play. In fact, we're rehearsing on Friday actually, and we're rehearsing next Thursday.
All
Hoping,
right.
hoping to launch out into the clubs of the world. So anyway, it's a loud rock and roll band. It's not the
Yeah.
jazz I've done. It's not the big band stuff I've done. It's a loud, raucous sort of rock and roll band. Sticks a lot
Oh
of people.
wow.
It's like sort of the same like or even all very simple. God knows what that sounds like because I'm using one of these kits which are just they're called deadheads. And they don't make any they don't make much sound. It's going to sound awful up there, but anyway, maybe
Yeah.
not.
Well,
But
there's a difference between rock drumming and big band or jazz drumming, because you're
well,
more known as a big band style of drumming.
well, not really. That's interesting that you say that, but I've only made one big. I've been on big band albums, but I've only made one big band album on my own. Driving Force, the Lloyd Ryan big band.
Oh,
Um, that's the only one I've made. A great band, a band was excellent, top quality musicians in London, the best. And you know, I mean, the difference in the feel between jazz, the basic beat in rock will be based on eighth notes, which would be with swing assists.
oh,
That's the difference.
yeah, yeah.
But then jazz funk, which has come bands like Blood, Sweat and Tears in the 60s crossed over, and the drummers would sort of go. All based on jazz, originally.
Yeah, yeah. Because John Coughlin's now doing a jazz reimagine. I mean, Status Quo reimagine is like the jazz version of all those Status Quo songs. So
Interesting. I've not
yeah,
seen
it's quite good. Yeah, he's very very good. But
it.
anyways,
He lives
uh,
in Oxfordshire.
pardon.
John lives in Oxfordshire, and is it down that way?
But they still tour. John Coughlin and his band, they do shows and gigs, and I have seen them in Chester one time, and it's all the familiar Status Quo songs, but done in a sort of like a jazzy style, which is really really good. I really enjoyed that one. But anyways, I'm gonna ask you because it's nearly we've been talking for an hour. It's really fascinating. It's entertaining as well. But there are questions, normal regular questions that I ask the guests. Um, as a tutor, drum tutor, do you teach your student how to twirl, how to twirl the sticks.
So I said, no, I can't anymore because my fingers, those two fingers, don't move very much anymore. They still move enough to be able to go do all that, but I can't.
Yeah.
I used to be able to do. I used to be able to do them where they go from there back up to there, right around in a circle properly. I can't do that. I can do it, but I can't do it with these fingers anymore. So
Oh, but is that something that you used to do in the past?
no, not at all. No. It didn't
No.
interest me at all. It's all good fun in marching bands and twirling their sticks and going and all that stuff, but never interested me really.
All right.
For me.
All right. Okay. Well, next question. You must have drumming heroes. Apart from Buddy Rich, that you wanted to sort of like do a Buddy Rich style.
In the early days, when I was interested in, I used to buy records of Louis Belson, Jim Krupa, Buddy Rich, Max Roach, Elvin Jones, those kind of drummers. But later on, I become more interested in the sort of jazz funk players, the Bernard Purdy's and Dave Weckles and Steve Gadd and those sort of drummers. They interested me. And I also find it more fun just sitting there going dum-ch, 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 dum, and making the band groove along and making the time perfect and all that. If you see what I mean, I enjoy that. You know, the jazz stuff I did a lot of jazz gigs with my quartet. In fact, I've got 4 albums out with my quartet, jazz albums, and I loved it because I used to do a big drum solo, the Caravan drum solo. I loved all that. The audience used to clap everything and all that bit, but it was very undisciplined. You know what I mean? The band never rehearsed. We just used to go and play and enjoy ourselves, and it worked. But
Yeah.
it's a little bit more organised, I would say, and I quite like that discipline. So I'm just as happy. And when you look at my playing career with people, all those acts that I played for are not jazz acts. Not one of them. You can hardly call Brother and a Man a jazz act, or the new CD, Tony Christie or Stella Black. They're not jazz acts. They were pop.
Pop,
So
yeah.
my career, 80% of my career would have been commercial music, and the other 20% would have been jazz, and I suppose drum clinics, and the teaching really, because I was playing every day I was teaching. I was also playing every night. So, but as I said earlier on in the interview, that I was known more for the teaching and the drum clinics than the actual playing. But I was working with the big names at the same time, but that didn't get publicised. I was just the back-end drummer, you see. But I enjoyed it, you know.
You played with so many artists and bands and musicians. Is there one musician or a band that you wanted to sort of like play drums in that band, or for a musician?
Well, hard to answer that question because so many of the people that I played for, I had watched on television when I was at school or in the 60s before I got into that situation. So I was achieving. I can remember when Oh Boy Show was on, there was an act on there called the Dallas Boys. You wouldn't remember them, but they were well known. But they were the first boy band. They were actually the first boy band. And I ended up playing for them on cabaret dates. And I also ended up doing their 30th anniversary in Northampton, in a theatre in Northampton. And I can remember sitting there thinking, my goodness, I'm sitting up here now. And yet 20 odd years ago, I was watching you on TV at school. You know, so my favourites have become reality.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one band, it was different.
And then you got to play with all of the ones that you've seen on television. And do you get starstruck?
No.
Maybe not now, but
no, funny enough, I wasn't then either. To me, it was a job that I was doing and trying to do well, and I didn't think about how lucky I was. It's only later, when I've got a little bit more time on my hands, to think about how well I did do and how lucky I was to meet these people. And when I see them, excuse me, when I see them on TV, I see that they died or something like that, or I think, wow, you know, I worked with you for loads of gigs, you know, and now he's gone, you know, and I just think, well, how lucky I was to have had that kind of career. I have had a career for a very long time, and I'm still in a band, albeit a new one, and I'm still teaching. So
Yeah, yeah.
I should have retired 15 years ago. You know,
But you love what you're doing. That's the most important thing. Is
funny, the teaching has taken shape differently in the last few years because I now am really happy to watch people do better in their lives, not only with the drumming, but to do better in their lives. Um, you know, as a person, not just
yeah,
playing drums, as a person, as we talked about earlier on. That to me is just as important now,
yeah, yeah,
more than it was when I was on the treadmill years ago when I was teaching in a school. I had 40 private pupils and I was doing 6, 7 shows a week, a night.
yeah, yeah,
I didn't have time to think about that. I just had to get on and do the job, eat and sleep, do the
yeah,
job. And I think that I now got time to think about, well, that pupil's come on really well in other ways. You know what I mean? In
yeah.
other ways.
Because you also like to talk about like how drumming can help in a person's mental health. And
They say it does, yeah. I've seen that.
yeah,
I've seen that personally. I've seen that. I won't go into mention any names of my pupils, but I've seen that happen where people have not been focused. For example, so I had a new pupil, and we've been doing some reading, say 6 lines of reading, and I would say to him, or whatever, I would say, right, play line 1, and then go straight to line 4, and they wouldn't be able to do that. They play line 1, and then they'd be confused about getting to line 4. Now that person can do that all the time, not a problem at all. And I'm happy with that. I'm really pleased with that because I think that's me doing good work with them and them doing good work as well. Not just about
yeah,
it's about the social thing as well. Very
yeah,
important.
that is true. Yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of people out there have got a lot of mental problems now with what's been happening in the world and what's been happening with the pandemic. It didn't affect me, the pandemic, but it did affect a lot of people. And a lot of people have lost direction with their lives, and I think this is one way of. I've even done shows in prisons.
all right.
Wandsworth Prison, Pentonville, yeah. And I had an email about 6 months ago from a guy saying, I remember you when you came to Wandsworth Prison 20 odd years ago, 30 years ago.
Oh wow.
Always remembered you for that. I'm out now. I'm out of prison now. I've served my sentence, he said, and I've never forgotten you. And I'm on the straight and narrow there. I'm a decorator or builder, or whatever it was, and I'm doing well, And I
Yeah,
remember you coming to I think it was Wandsworth Prison. And
yeah.
I
I
went
think that's better than fame, or it's like someone telling you something like that. I mean,
yeah, that's what I got. That's the thing I got.
amazing.
About 6 months ago, and I came back to him and said, well done, are you playing? He said, no. He said, I'm not playing the drums. He said, but your influence that's even better for me because I'm not a drummer. He said, but your influence on me turned me round, and I got parole very quickly. I got out of the prison, and bang, and I think that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh wow.
I'm saying to a lot of the prisoners, I mean, the pastor, the guy who was down in the church, in the prison church in Wandsworth, I remember that. There's about 100 people there, prisoners, And I remember he said to me, don't go near them, there might be, some of them are quite hardliners. I not only went near them, I sat with them and talked to them. No problem at all, they got on great. And I'm
Yeah,
saying, any of you guys are coming out, maybe when you come out, maybe you should think about taking up a musical instrument. It might give you a real focus. And
yeah, yeah,
whether they
yeah.
did, I don't know, but I did get one message not so long ago, which
Wow.
is, I kept that message somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere, So that's worth 1,000 words, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
It
That's
happens.
brilliant. Well, another question I wanted to ask you: have you ever had any accidents while playing drums all these years?
I have had it, but I was at the Ken McIntyre Orchestra. We were on a rostrum, and I had one of those stools that were like a tripod stool, and it went too far back, and I fell off the rostrum.
Oh God.
Yeah, I was all right, but the annoying thing was nobody noticed.
Oh. Oh dear. And then you just carried on. You got up and then carried on playing.
Oh, well, I
Oh,
got back up and carried on.
yeah.
And they said, "Hey, you missed a couple of beats." I said, "Oh, I missed more than that, mate, where I left."
It's a couple of well, I'm gonna ask your final question for you now, but I wanted to say that Aiden said the snippets of drumming are absolutely fantastic, and I totally agree with that. So a final question for you is, what would be your advice to aspiring drummers, being a drum teacher?
Well, as I said before, a lot of drummers say they don't want to read because they might spoil their creativity, but it's actually the reverse. It actually creates more creativity because all the books you can buy from great players and absorb what they're doing. Then you don't have to copy them. But I would say that get a good teacher, learn to read. It's not reading. What I found with reading music, because I was useless at school and useless at maths, as I said to you earlier on, I would say that drum music is fairly easy to understand, but very difficult to actually do. You've got to work at it to make it work, to make it sound right and play. But to understand it, it's not mega difficult. If you've got a good teacher with you who's patient with you, it's not so difficult, you know?
Yeah, but it's the working, or what do you call it? It's actually playing it. It's understanding it and reading and understanding the
Yeah,
what.
understanding it is the same thing as actually playing. They're close, but to understand, oh, I can read all that, lovely, I can play that. When you come to play it, you find, hang on a minute,
You can't play it.
that is what happens, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so this new band, when and where is your gig?
Well, I can't tell you there's nothing at the moment because I've only
Oh,
just
there's
joined.
nothing yet. Yeah, yeah.
They were just rehearsing at the moment. They're planning to get some work. But of course, what happened, a lot of venues, as you know, closed down after the pandemic. A lot of pubs and
That's
clubs
yeah,
closed
yeah,
down.
probably,
And this
yeah.
band we're up with now is not is a pub club band, basically. So they probably lost about 50 venues up here in Liverpool, you know, where there was regular bands every week. And so it's more difficult now to get gigs in certain places. And London's not so bad. But then it swings around about. So there's more work in London, but it's not so easy to get about, where it's much easier to get about up here. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not desperate for the money.
Well,
So,
yeah. Hopefully, you'll get to hear of if there's a gig that I can go and see you, because I don't think I'll be able to go to any drum clinic.
if you ever get your phone fixed, I can call you up. Is it fixed?
Yeah, because it would be nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, yeah,
The
great.
man who actually taught Phil Collins and John Coglan. I know I keep saying it, but I just really think it's absolutely amazing.
There's lots more required drummer. Oh dear, it goes on forever.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Lloyd Ryan. I'm really glad. I mean, I feel so honored that you said yes to ask the drummer.
I'm going to be
And
honest. I'm honoured to be asked, and I'm honoured to be able to play the things. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, have a great evening. Well, I think it's about going to sleep. It's sleeping time now. It's after 9.
It's still,
So,
is it still Sunday?
yeah. Well, I really hope that someday I'll get to meet you in real life.
When we shut down, can you stay back on there? Can we speak a quick second here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll do. So, okay. Well, thank you so much. If you just saw, like, hang on, I'll do my end bit and then I'll speak to you afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again. All right. See
Bye.
you. Bye. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. That was absolutely amazing. And like Aiden said, those drumming bits are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But, anyways, we'll be back again next week with another amazing drummer as a guest. And also, I just wanted to say before I go that Michael Head and the Red Elastic Band are touring. They're doing a winter tour starting on Friday in Nantwich. Do go and check out their social media pages for all the dates, and hopefully you go and see them because they're absolutely amazing. So I hope to see you there. Anyways, thank you all so much, and I'll see you again next Sunday. And as always, love music, love life, love drummers, and see you all again next week. Bye for now. Bye.